We left on the Sunday morning before the storm. It hit on Monday morning. We were kind of last minute. The city was pretty empty at that point, but there were a lot of people still there. It wasn't until late Saturday, that anybody really knew it was coming towards us. I mean, everybody was saying it was going to Pensacola, all the weather people and all of that stuff. So people freaked out in the middle of the night, Saturday night, started driving. Then we got up early Sunday and went to Baton Rouge, which is normally about an hour and a half away. It took us about 12 hours to get there. Power, it was really windy. There were a bunch of trees down, and we had a lot of rain bands, but it didn't last that long in Baton Rouge. I mean, hurricanes, they blow through pretty quickly. But the sun came out that Monday, and the initial shots we saw of New Orleans once the power came back on were good, and then the levees broke, and then you started seeing all this horrible pictures of Lakeview and New Orleans East, the Ninth Ward, everything just slowly filling with water. And that's when we knew, okay, it's going to be a while before we can go back. As soon as we saw the water filling up, everybody knew, we weren't going home for a while. I lived in the Lower Garden District, that area did not flood. It's up the river from the French Quarter, so it didn't take any water. I mean, there was a lot of damage. There's a lot of roof damage. Well, I mean, it wasn't just that we realized we couldn't go back. I mean, they were saying on the news, don't plan on coming back anytime soon. And they sort of opened up this city slowly a couple weeks later by zip code. And so we were in Baton Rouge. I was with my old boss. We were at her parents' house. And we knew it was going to be a while, so I said, okay, we should probably just go home. So we went to my mom's house in North Carolina, where I grew up, and just kind of hung out, glued to CNN and the Weather Channel nonstop, and just waited. Just wrote it out for a couple of weeks. A couple weeks later, we could go back, but it was no man's land when we went back. I mean, there were no streetlights, there were no restaurants, there were no women in the city. I mean, there were National Guards and construction workers, and that's about it. So it was a pretty scary, dark place to be in this first couple of weeks after they allowed us back in. At that point, a lot of people were just making other plans, and my mom actually called and said, South Carolina is letting lawyers come in and practice. The Supreme Court has passed this order where you can practice per hoc vice immediately. And I said, oh, that's interesting. My mom grew up on Isle of Palms. My dad's from Rock Hill, so Charleston seemed like a pretty good place to move after being in New Orleans.